Hello there everyone, I'm Christina at CSLdesigns and today I'm going to show you how to make these leather and wire Kumihimo bracelets. And these are what mine look like here. So what we have is we have a leather running down the center of the braid in this kind of intertwining effect with how we make the braid as well, how we move the wire. And then it's framed by the leather on the outside edges. So obviously that adds some color as well and it gives a really nice effect between the two different materials there. And it can then look a little something like this on. So you can see we get the nice effect of the intertwining wire as kind of the main focal piece, but then that colour just adds a nice little touch as well. So I also think that these bracelets here will work well for men because of that texture we've added in through the wire in the middle, but then also just the texture you get from adding both wire and leather cord together in the same braid, because they obviously have different textures, so it gives a really nice effect. And then obviously it depends on what colorway that you choose. So for instance, this one here, I've used the copper wire with that fuchsia cord, so that's a bit more feminine looking. But then this one, I've used the silver wire with the dark grey cord, which I think is a bit more masculine looking. So obviously it really depends how you combine your colours as well, but along with that texture. So if you want to learn how to make these bracelets, then keep watching. So these are the materials that we're going to need. First of all, here I have my Kumihimo disc. Now I'm using the square one in this case, but you can really make this braid on either the square one or the round one. So then we need our threading material, and what I have here is both leather and wire. They're being combined in the braid. And first of all, the leather here is a 1.5mm round leather cord, and I'm then combining that with this regular round 0.6mm copper wire. And then to finish off the ends of the braid, I'm using these ribbon ends here where I can then attach my findings, and those are lotter claw clasp, extender chain, and then the jump rings there. Obviously you can choose whatever kind of findings that you want to. So check out the description box below the video as well, because there's going to be the material list and any links that you might need. And also, if you're new to Kumihimo, I do personally sell a Kumihimo starter kit that might be of interest to you, and in that you get both the round and the square disc, so like I said, you can use either for this braid here. And again, I'll put a link for that in the description box down below. Otherwise, let's get all the materials ready and let's get started. And then we need to cut some lengths of our wire and our leather cord. And what we have first of all here is I've got 12 lengths of my wire, and these are about 40 centimeters long. And then we have 4 lengths of the leather cord, and these are a bit longer, so about 50 centimeters long, because they're going to get used up a little bit more. And then what I've done is I've made sure all the ends are even here, and I just put a piece of tape, insulation tape there around them to help hold them all together. So I then took all the lengths here that I cut ready and attached them onto my Kumihimo disc. So what I did is I took the end where I added the tape and put that down through the hole in the center there, so it's sticking out towards the back, and I'm also going to use that to hold on to there. So I'm going to hold on to that, the braid underneath there, throughout making it, and not so much the disc itself. And then how I've placed all my lengths here is I put 2 leather cords at the top, so 1 in either slot in the middle there, and then I put in the middle slots on the side, in the bottom one and the middle one, on either side I put a leather one as well. Now the remaining ones are the wire, so the ones just above, the leather ones on the sides, they're wire, and then the 2 middle ones on the bottom, they're also wire. Now in all the slots where I have wire in, there's 3 lengths of wire in each of them, and we're going to be working with that throughout. And then we need to start doing the braid structure itself here. So also, just especially in the beginning, make sure you hold on to that tape nice and tight, because especially in the first few movements that we're going to be making, if you pull too tight, or if you don't hold on tight enough underneath there, you can pull the wire or the leather through that tape. So it's really just to hold them together, but once we've made a few rounds of the braid, it does get much stronger and you don't have to hold as tight underneath. Now to get started, what we need to do is I'm going to start from the top. So I'm going to take out the 2 leather cords on the top and the middle. I'm going to take the right one first of all, then bring it out towards the left side of the disc, and then place it in the slot below the 2 middle ones on the side there. Then I'm just going to swap hands, always holding on to that end of the wires and leather underneath the disc. And then take the other one from the top, so the left one of the 2 middle ones, and bring it to the right side of the disc. And again place it into the slot just below the 2 that are already occupied there in the middle. So it looks like this now. Then we need to move the bottom ones. Now this is where it's a little bit different than the regular braid structure, because we've got 3 lengths of wire. We're going to get a different kind of effect than just using 1 length of material, whether it's wire or cord or something. So what I'm going to be doing here is actually just releasing both of them, keeping them both to each their own side. It's going to get much easier once we do a few rounds and the kind of braid structure is created already. All the lengths are going to kind of have their own place, but it's the same principle throughout. So what I like to do as well is, because it's the wire here, I just like to smooth them through my fingers before we start moving them, so once we move them they're ready for the next movement after that they need to do. Just kind of get them laid flat next to each other as well, so separate it out. Now like I said, make sure to hold on to this nicely underneath so we don't pull any of the wires through. So what we're going to be doing is you're going to find, and especially as we've done a few rounds later on, that the wires should be lying flat next to each other, and you're going to have one further towards the middle, one in the middle of the 3 wires, and then further towards the outside with the last one, and the same on the other side, of course. So we're going to be doing the same movement here, so working from the right, bring towards the left, just like we did for the top 2. But to begin with, I'm just going to take one wire at a time, so I'm going to start with the one that's furthest towards the middle. Take that first of all, bring that from this right side over towards the left, and now place that into the slot above all the other ones, just like that. And again I swap hands, and then I go to the left side and just pick out the inner one of the 3. So just make sure it's the inner one so we get the effect that we want. Obviously it's not as important right in the first 1 or 2 rounds here, but it's just to get the rhythm of it anyway. It will matter later on as we go throughout the main part of the braid. So then the inner one of the ones to the left side, take that and bring it towards the right and place that into the slot above the other ones on that side already. Again, swap hands, so we then take the next one on the right. So this was the original middle one, which is now the inner one of the 2 that are left. Just bring that over the middle and out towards the left and bring it into the same slot. And repeat with the left side here, the inner one of the 2 that are left, bring that towards the right, into the same slot as the previous one, and then we just have the last 2, and we just do the exact same thing. Make sure to grab hold of the wire here and cord underneath the disc, and join them up again, so we're basically reforming the groups after we split them apart. And the same with the last one. Now this first 1 or 2 rounds you're not really going to be able to see much of the effect because obviously it's starting from where all the wires and cords are loose, but once we've done a couple of rounds you can really start to see the effect as well. And then we need to move the cords and the wires on the side. So what we need to do is I'm just going to start on my left side. It doesn't matter what side you start on because we're going to be doing both of them anyway. But I'm going to start on the left one, and I'm going to take out of those 2 middle ones, the top one is the one with wires. I'm going to release them first of all. And then make sure in the middle that they're lying flat next to each other, so they're following the structure throughout. If you need to swap any wires around, then you can do that before bringing them then down and place them into the left slot of the 2 middle ones there, so it stays on that left side. Then release the bottom one of those 2 middle ones, which is then a leather cord, and we bring that up. Again, straight opposite the ones on the bottom, they're the wires. Then on the other side, we do the exact same thing, so release the wire ones at the top out of those 2 middle ones. Make sure they lie flat next to each other. Again, in the first 1 or 2 rounds it's not too crucial, but it obviously does become important as we get into the main pattern. And it also becomes easy because, like I said, they will have found more the actual position in the braid rather than right now they're all coming from the same point. Then the leather one of the 2 middle ones goes up, and then we have this, so the top ones and the bottom ones are now in the original position, but we just have a big gap here. So all we need to do is close up that gap by literally releasing first the wires and then the leather and just moving them one slot closer to each other, and then just do the same on the other side as well. So just like that, and this is now 1 full round. So basically the wires, the groups of wire and the cords have moved around on the disc, swap places and that, but it's basically the original setup. So I'm just going to show you again one more time up close here, just so you can get an effect of how it looks like in the middle and how we do the movements. So again, I start from the top, I release the top right one first of all, that's a leather cord, bring that out to the left side and place it into the slot just below the others on the side there. So remove them first to the top leather cords, then I take the remaining one, so that's the left one of the 2 middle ones on the top, and bring it out to the right side. So the leather cord here obviously just kind of moves and works like cord would. It's just the wire here that's a little bit different. So again, I'm going to be releasing the 2 bottom groups of wire, all 3 of them in each group. and just like to smooth them out before I move them, just like I said. And now because the wire reacts a bit differently than cord does, I like to work with my wire in Kumihimo a bit differently here. So again, I'm just separating them out so you can kind of see where they're coming out from the middle there. They're wanting to naturally lie flat next to each other. So make sure you kind of keep that going throughout. So if you need to swap them around, like I said. Same on the other side. Really nicely like that. Then I'm going to take the inner one on the right side first of all, and bring that over towards the left. Now, how I like to work with my wire is to get the braid as tight as possible and kind of have the wires nestle close to each other as they can. I grab hold of it kind of with my hand, and then as I'm bringing this one over to the side, I put my thumb against the wire in the middle there where we're creating the braid and kind of push against it with a little bit of force, and then place it into the slot on the side. Now same on the other side as well. Take the inner wire from that, and then as I'm going to be moving it, I hold on to it while then pushing against it in the middle there, using my thumb to then bring it out to the side. And then as I'm bringing it out to the side as well, I'm letting it run through my hands and fingers. And then take the next one in, and then bring that to the opposite side. Again, making sure I push against it there in the middle. And you're slowly going to be able to start to see that obviously in the middle there they actually cross over each other, kind of intertwining with each other. The next one from the left side goes over the others there and then towards the right and rejoin back up in that same slot. And we can start to see it there because we now have 4 wires crossing over each other, and it looks a bit like that. Now the next one here, the remaining one on the right side, bring that over towards the left, again rejoin back up. So we've moved all of them on that side now, and the remaining one on the left side over towards the right, and have the last one to be crossing over there, and join back up. And if you need to adjust anything, you can always do that throughout. Keep an eye on it and make sure you like how it looks. So they're crossing over and intertwining like that in the middle. Now then, just to remove the remaining ones, again it doesn't matter what side you start on. Release the top ones or the 2 middle ones, which is the group of wire. And then here again you want to make sure that they stay lying flat next to each other so they follow basically the pattern where they're coming out from the previous round in the middle there. So you can be able to see it more clearly on your own. But basically so they're not crossing over and under each other in there. And then I make sure they stay lying flat next to each other while I then push against it with my index finger to bring it down, running it through my hands and fingers and into that bottom slot, staying on the same side of the disc. Then I take the leather cord from that side and bring it up. And then I take the wire group out of those 2 middle ones. On the right side, do the same thing, make sure they're lying flat next to each other. So you can always check it further down how they're coming out, and you can also flip your disc here and look at it from the back if you feel like that helps, just to make sure you get them lying in the right order. And then bring that down, pushing against it there with the index finger, and then placing them into the slot. Then we take the leather cord and bring that up. And then we can always readjust anything that we need to. So again, now we have to close up those gaps there. So all we do is I release one, either group of wires or leather cord at a time, and I make sure that they stay flat next to each other from the current round that we just did. And then I bring them back out to place them one slot closer, and the same with the leather cord there, so we close up that gap. Same on the other side. And then that's another full round. And then basically just keep repeating this until you have the length that you need. So now I've finished making my braid, we can remove it from the disc, and because we're using wire, we don't have to worry too much about the braid coming undone. But obviously we also do use that leather cord, so what I do want to just do is just slightly secure the end in place. So I'm actually just going to be using some of the wire here, just taking the ones on the side. Before I release any of the cords or anything, just wrap it across. And this is literally just to basically secure the end in place. So the leather cords And don't worry really about it being neat because we're going to cut off the ends anyway. So just something like that. And then obviously the other ones you can just kind of remove as well and bring up. And then we can just release the rest of them. And then take the disc away. And then that end of the braid won't come undone and we don't have to hold it close with our fingers either. So just remove the disc and then we have our braid. And the braid then looks like this. So what we have here is the front of the braid where we have these intertwining wires kind of with the effect that we make. And the back looks like this. So it's also going to be nice and comfortable to wear because we mainly have the leather cord there in the middle going against the skin when we shape it. Now what we need to do now obviously is finish off the ends because we just have a length of braid right now. So to do that, what we're going to need to use is first of all some wire cutters. In this case, I use these flush cutters here because we have wire in here, so we can't just use a scissor. So we need to use that to cut it over. But obviously, because there's leather cord in this, I want to make sure that that doesn't unravel when we cut it. So before cutting it, I'm just going to put some glue on, and that's going to be this E6000 I'm going to be using. So it's nice and strong, so it's going to be durable long term, but also it dries clear. And then I just use a toothpick to help apply it. So we literally want to get a bit on here, on the toothpick, and then I'm going to start on one end and then we just want to basically add it to the braid. So literally go across the point where we're going to end up cutting. So we need to be wide enough because we need to cut through the middle of this glue. Make sure to cover a decent area here. Go around the sides and the back as well, make sure the whole thing gets covered with glue. But like I said, this is for when we cut it off, the ends, so the braid doesn't unravel. The glue is going to help hold it together. Just make sure we catch all of it, especially that leather cord. That's the main priority. So, and also try and make sure to get the glue there in between the braid because that's going to also really help hold it together between all the cords and the wire. So just distribute it like this and then obviously let it dry for a bit before we then cut through it. Then when the glue is dry to the touch here, so obviously it's not going to get too tacky on the pliers, I'm going to take my wire cutters and then we just literally need to cut across this, but we need to cut basically in the middle of the glue, so there's going to be glue on either side, mainly obviously this actual main braid, so it's still going to hold the ends together. But you also don't want to leave too long a length because this needs to fit inside the ribbon end. So you just choose somewhere, maybe just double check actually on the back, that would be the right place as well. And then we just start cutting our way over to the other side. Get through that wire. Just like that, so we have a straight edge. So obviously the ribbon end will fit nicely onto that. And then what we need to do is repeat on the other end. Now obviously you need to measure this because you need the length for your size. So you just measure from this point that you cut and then however long you need the braid, and then you put the glue on that point so you can then cut across there as well. And obviously take your clasp into account as well. So now I have my length ready here. All that's left to do is attach our ribbon ends so we can attach our findings as well and then obviously wear it. So what I'm just going to do is again take my ribbon end, and this is going to fit over the end there. But before we do that, I want to add some glue to this as well just to make the two pieces of the ribbon end and the end of the bracelet adhere nicely together. So I'm just going to grab some more of my E6000 here. Again, just take a little bit, it doesn't have to be too much because first of all there's already glue on the bracelet, but also we don't want too much inside because this is going to come, it's going to be clamped down, so the glue probably just comes spilling out anyway. So literally just a little bit on the inside walls, you could say. Just distribute it around. And then we need to place it on the end of the bracelet here. So make sure it goes over all of the cords and the wires so nothing is sticking out anywhere, otherwise make sure to tuck it in if it hasn't quite been caught with that glue on the end of the bracelet. And then all that's left to do is clamp it down. For that I'm using just some flat nose pliers, and I like to hold it in my hand and then put a finger on either side to make sure I kind of hold it in the middle there, because as we clamp it down it can move a little bit, which is also why I like to go in and just do a little bit at a time. So I'm kind of doing gentle squeezes, moving from side to side until it gradually gets closer and closer. You see kind of closing up there. and the sides. Now when I feel like it's almost all the way down, I want to just double check that it's still in the middle and nothing is kind of sat where I don't want it to sit, so it looks nice and even. And then we can go in and do a final squeeze, nice and tight. And what I also like to do is actually come in from the side to kind of just close up those little openings on the side there a little bit more. And there we go. Now that's attached. Obviously then let the glue dry so this fully adheres to each other and it's not going to move out of place anywhere. Then once you've done that, obviously do the other end as well. You can then use these loops in the ribbon ends to attach your findings to, and then all that's left to do is shape the bracelet. And now I've attached both ends here and also attached my clasp. So my extended chain and my lotto claw clasp there. Then all that's left to do is shape it, and you can do that by either shaping this around something that has the size and shape you want it to have. So say like a bracelet mandrel or a mug or something that you have, a container. Or you can just use your hands and fingers, and I just like to go in to a place and then start putting a gradual curve into it. Obviously making sure that the front of the braid there is going to face outward. So you don't go into one place and just make a bend because that'll put it out of shape. What we need is gradually put a curve into it to basically bring the two ends together. So just moving back and forth here, a little at a time. So I've now finished shaping the bracelet here, as you can see, and we can use the clasp so it's ready to wear. And then personally what I prefer is to make more of an oval shape than a rounded shape, as you can see here, because I feel it sits better on the wrist. Obviously it's personal preference, but I feel it kind of stops it from moving around too much, and it's also comfortable because technically when you look at it, your wrist isn't really round, it's more oval, but that's just personal preference like I said. But then we have the finished bracelet and it looks like this, so you get this really nice effect of that wire kind of intertwining with each other in the middle, and then kind of framed in by the leather on the outsides, on the edges there. And then you can get very different looks depending on what materials you use and also what colors, so you combine that in different ways. So I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Feel free to check out other videos and tutorials on my YouTube channel as well. I have loads of them. I have loads of Kumihimo ones and also some other wire Kumihimo ones that you can check out. So feel free to do that. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching this one, and I'll see you in the next one.